would go to them for your care. It is not a substitute for conventional medical care. However, Homeopathy World community wants to expand the boundaries of information. We are providing alternatives to what you would normally hear in the mass media, things that would promote the integrity of science. And science is an investigation and exploration into things that are new in the world. And there's no reason why we should shut that out or close the doors to those things. We need to be open-minded and find what works for us, both on an individualized level, which is homeopathy, and for society as a whole. So that's how I'm going to begin our show today. And I will now introduce Mark, who is with us from California. He will be speaking about how he got involved with this investigation, his personal story, and then about the mineral selenium and how it is able to destroy cancer cells without harming normal cells and without negative effects, plus the special diet that he provides. His website is the Nutritional Oncology Research Institute. And we have up on the website, on the video there, a link to his site. So welcome, Mark. I hope he's able to hear me.
And welcome to all your listeners throughout the world.
Yes, throughout the world.
I'm grateful for this opportunity to share this very, very exciting information. I got into cancer in 2004. My wife was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And I went on an investigational journey, reading and discovering all kinds of information on ways to treat cancer differently than the ways that it is currently treated, with chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. And I've discovered so many interesting, encouraging, extraordinary bits of information on ways cancer can be treated without toxic drugs, using natural compounds and using the diet, making changes in the diet to help the body rid itself of malignant cells and to help support the health of normal cells. So about 4 years ago, I came across information on selenium, and it got me very, very excited, and I've stayed very, very highly focused on researching selenium. And it turns out that it's been known for over 30 years that certain forms of selenium are able to selectively kill cancer cells without causing harm to normal cells. This is a published study in 1981. And since then, there have been many studies on selenium, using it for preventing cancer. There's been many human clinical trials where people have been supplemented with selenium, and we've seen risk reductions in prostate, colon, and lung cancer by about 60% with a supplementation of 200 micrograms of selenium. So there's quite a lot of scientific research in this field, and animal studies, cell culture studies, where human cancer cells have been exposed to very, very low concentrations of selenium, and it triggers cancer cells to undergo apoptosis, or that's programmed cell death, where it doesn't actually poison them, it just lets them naturally shut down, where they're not going to cause harm anymore to a healthy person. And then the other area I've been studying in great detail is diet. How do you design a diet that changes the tumor microenvironment to make it very, very inhospitable for cancer cells. And one area of research has been on selective amino acid restriction. Cancer cells have a unique set of metabolic requirements, different than normal cells. They do consume a lot of sugar, and they consume glutamine, and they have requirements for other amino acids. And so it is possible to actually shut down cancer cells by restricting certain nutrients in the diet. And so that's the other area that I've been intensively researching. I've put these two, I basically have built a cancer treatment protocol together, and it's based on these two areas. It's selenium, using selenium as a non-toxic form of chemotherapy, and then I use that in conjunction with a diet, and the diet is able to either treat the cancer directly, starving it and shrinking tumors, or if it is unable to do that, it at least sensitizes the cancer cells to the treatment. So the treatment works as a set of two cycles. There's cycles of selenium. It's not given continuously, it's given intermittently at high doses, and that's synchronized with this diet. That's also done in cycles. It goes through cycles of restricting methionine, which is a certain amino acid, and then repleting it. And then the two cycles are synchronized together. And we're doing clinical studies using this method, and we're seeing very, very good results in all forms of cancer and late-stage cancers. These are people with stage 4 cancer where it has spread to other organs. And these people are responding very well to this therapy.
And are you the only one doing this?
I am training doctors, like naturopathic doctors and integrative MDs on this protocol. So there are a number of doctors. The number's growing who are using this protocol, and we're getting more and more clinical data with time. But so far, the results have been very, very encouraging. I think that there's some fine-tuning necessary for this. It's only been done in probably 100 patients. And that's a pretty small sample. But for that sample, and these are mostly stage 4 patients, advanced cancers where they've given up on all other options. They've already gone through chemotherapy, they've gone through radiation, and they've had surgery, and the cancer, has come back, it's returned, it's spread to other organs. So
they're in a malignant stage.
They have metastatic cancer.
Metastatic cancer.
Metastatic cancer means that it's spread beyond the original site or original organ where it started. Breast cancer starts out in the breasts. When it metastasizes, it typically goes into the bone. It can go into the lungs. It can go into the brain. It can go into the liver. Cancer tends to do that. Cells break off, from the tumor. They get into the bloodstream, and then they find a home elsewhere in the body. That's typical behavior of most cancers. It becomes metastatic. It's spread to other organs. It goes into lymph nodes. At that, conventional medicine really doesn't have very powerful tools to deal with it. And this is why stage 4 cancer patients seek out alternative treatments. They may go to Mexico, they may go to Germany, they may get treatment locally here in the United States, at various clinics. They may try high-dose intravenous vitamin C, ozone therapy.
Hmm.
They may go to various naturopathic clinics. And most of the treatments provided within these clinics are kind of shock.
Are kind of what?
It's a shock.
Shock treatments? We're kind of losing your sound a little.
It's a shock treatment where many different things are tried at once, hoping
Right.
that's going to work.
To shock the body. To shock,
Shotgun.
yeah.
Shotgun,
Oh,
like a shot.
shotgun. Okay, shotgun therapy.
Mark, is the boom mic that you have on the headset, is that the mic that you're actually using?
Yes.
Get it closer to your mouth.
It doesn't really move closer.
Yeah, when you
Oh, jeez. Okay, that's all right.
when he held it, it was sounding good.
All right. Well,
There. Oh, I think it's probably the electrical connection on
That's
it.
all right.
Okay, and I also wanted to just mention to any of our listeners out there that if you do want to comment or question, if you're in the United States, you can call area code 919-518-9773. That's area code 919-518-9773. And if you're on Skype internationally, you can call Computers 2K Voice. Okay. So we're learning that many people who have gone through all the kinds of treatment that are available begin to search out alternative therapies, the vitamin C, the ozone, naturopathic, other things, and probably Gersten diet and things like that. And you did that same investigation yourself, and then you came to these new information about selenium.
right. I came across some new findings for myself, specifically about selenium, that so the right type and form of selenium, it's not just selenium, it's got to be the proper form. The proper form at the right dose has the ability to selectively kill cancer cells. I don't like really using the word kill because that implies, we're poisoning them and it's toxic. It allows cancer cells to undergo apoptosis, which is a natural way that all cells in the body, once they're spent and used and they've done their job, they recycle back into our body, and all the components are recycled and reused. So it's a natural form of shutting down the activities of the cell and recycling its components.
Mm-hmm. Right, so you're kind of withdrawing the nutrition for that cancer cell to grow, to continue its out-of-control growth. You're kind of setting an environment in the body for it not to survive any longer, and yet our normal cells can continue to grow.
Yes, our normal cells are unharmed. So there's two parts. There's part one of the protocol, which is selenium, which may or may not be necessary in all cases. That's sort of, the big gun that can come out and do its work. And the other part, which is really 80% of it, is the diet.
I've
I've seen cases where patients have responded very, very well to just changes in the diet. And let me talk a little bit about methionine. Methionine is an amino acid that's found in very, very high concentrations in animal protein. It is generally very, very low in vegetable foods and in vegetable-based proteins, except soy. Soy products have about as much methionine, almost as much as meat, animal products. Cancer cells are very, very highly dependent on methionine to reproduce and to grow. And methionine is one of those amino acids that can be restricted from the diet safely, and the plasma level of methionine can drop low enough to be therapeutic. And this has been shown in some clinical studies. This is an area that's actually been studied for quite a long time. There was a doctor, MD, that was doing some studies, and he used a nutritional drink. It was totally complete nutritionally. It was just missing the one amino acid. And he was giving that to his patients, and he was seeing tumor regression and higher sensitivity to chemotherapy. So I designed a diet that is low methionine, very low in methionine, that is pretty easy to do. It is a vegan diet. It must restrict all forms of animal protein. And it ends up being mostly fruit and some vegetables. And it goes in cycles. You can't maintain it for a long period of time. But the way it works is the cancer cells are starved of the amino acid. They're no longer able to replicate, and the tumors shrink. Normal cells basically freeze. They go into quiescence. They're not harmed by a lack of methionine. They just slow or stop their growth and reproduction. Cancer cells have broken cell cycle checkpoints. The checkpoints through the cell. Normal cells proceed through a cell cycle, and at different phases there are checkpoints that tell the cell everything I need is there, everything has proceeded according to plan to go to the next phase of cell cycle division and replication. Cancer cells, that mechanism is broken, so the cancer cells ignore the fact they don't have sufficient methionine or other nutrients, or they haven't synthesized everything they need to undergo mitosis, to divide and grow into more cancer cells. So restricting methionine is just one way of pulling the rug out from under the cancer cells' metabolism and cell cycle, and prevents them from growing, dividing, and the disease spreading further in the body. And there's a lot of supportive evidence for this, because it's been known that if a person can go on a fast, if they're healthy enough, fasting has the potential to treat cancer. And also, people can go on a juice fast, various types of water fasts, or certain juice combinations, and they get good results. Some patients respond very well to going on either a macrobiotic diet or a vegan diet, raw food vegan diet. Not all patients respond to it, but a good number of patients do respond very well, and they see stabilization in the disease or sometimes reversal. But
even at stage 4, you're saying you can see some improvement.
Yeah, Gerson therapy. Gerson therapy is a diet that's free of all animal products. It's basically a diet of mostly vegetables and vegetable juices and some other foods. It's not necessarily very, very low in methionine, but much lower in methionine, than like a standard American diet. That would include animal protein. And when I talk about animal protein, I'm saying dairy products, eggs, fish, poultry, beef, and pork. All flesh foods.
And can I ask you about the cycle? Is it like a 2-week cycle, a 4-week cycle? How does that cycle run between the selenium treatment and the diet?
Right. The cycle can vary a little bit depending on what the patient is able to handle, but typically it would be 7 to 10 days of methionine restriction, and then and then 4 to 7 days of repletion. So one cycle, 10 days of restriction, and then 4 days of normal eating. When I say normal eating, I don't mean going back to eating meat, but
Right.
just vegetarian diet.
So the one is restricted to purely fruits, or can you eat vegetables also? Like, what about root vegetables?
Certain vegetables are allowed. In fact, I do even recommend carrot juice and beet juice.
Uh-huh.
And celery juice. That's a very, very good juice combination. I think it's one of the most powerful combinations for treating cancer. What is restricted are beans and grains because they are somewhat high in methionine. So the diet is mostly fruit. Fruit does have an adequate amount of protein. Fruit is not totally devoid of protein, so it's not like you're going on a zero protein diet. There are proteins or amino acids within fruits.
What about seeds? Like sunflower seeds, which have the high selenium, and the Brazil nuts.
Nuts and seeds are excluded during the restriction phase, but they're perfectly fine during the repletion phase.
Okay.
So no seeds and nuts. So it's mostly fruit, and then there's a pretty wide vegetables that are acceptable. Even sweet potatoes, lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes. There's actually a very, very wide variety of foods that can be eaten. Oils are acceptable, so you could have a salad dressing. Possibly a small amount of avocado would be acceptable. So that's the diet. And then the selenium treatment is given at about day 7. It's at about day 7 or day 8 into the methionine restriction phase. And that's when the cells are most susceptible. And the other interesting thing about the protocol is it excludes pretty much all nutritional supplements, because any other nutritional supplement, especially antioxidants, are not helpful. They're not synergistic, and they don't work with the protocol. So we don't want anybody taking vitamin C or any other antioxidants. And also during selenium treatment, we suspend the use of the juices for a while because the antioxidant level can get up too high. Selenium actually works as a pro-oxidant. It actually creates oxidation inside the cell, and that's what triggers the processes of apoptosis. Cancer cells are already under a huge amount of oxidative stress, and providing selenium tips that balance. It puts it under additional oxidative stress, which triggers apoptosis. So oxidative stress means it's producing hydrogen peroxide and oxygen, O2, super. It depolarizes the mitochondrial membrane. It triggers many, many things inside the cell. It's almost as if the cancer cells stuck in a pot feedback. It's like it's unlatched, it's kicking out.
See if you can put your mic a little closer to your mouth so we can keep a smooth sound coming in. So you're really concerned about how you can have this cancer cells dying off without harming the rest of the body. A lot of times we will read or learn about this die-off and kinds of symptoms or side effects that a person might have when the dead cells enter the bloodstream. Is this something that you also see?
Because
Wait a minute, we're not getting any response. Okay.
Are you hearing me now?
Okay, see if we can get some sound coming through.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Are we okay?
Yeah, try and sit in one space so that we hear you. Okay. Give it a go.
Right. We don't really see die-off symptoms because it's a gentle process.
Uh-huh. Oh, we lost you.
Let me try something. Let me go off my internal mic.
Oh, that's good.
Is
There
this
you
good?
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay.
Yay.
I'm sorry. I just bought this new headphone, and I was using it the other day. It was working fine, but I guess it's not working for me today. So
Okay.
we'll go to the normal way to do it.
Great.
So you're asking about die-off.
Right.
Yeah, you can kill cancer cells too quickly, and you can create die-off symptoms. And there are different ways that cancer cells can die off. There's necrosis, which would be, if we were to use very, very large quantities of selenium, they probably would undergo necrosis. And that would cause a lot of inflammation, and a lot would be released into the bloodstream and would probably cause some symptoms. But this form of therapy is pretty gentle, and cells undergo apoptosis, which is a natural, normal way that these cells die off. And there probably is a little bit of an immune response and a little bit of inflammation. The immune system starts coming in and doing a little bit of cleanup. I will mention that I believe that cancer has nothing to do with the immune system. Cancer can develop in a body that has a perfectly normal and healthy immune system. It is not really a disease of the immune system at all. Cancer cells are really our normal tissue, our normal cells, and they appear to be derived from stem cells or embryonic cells. And cancer cells have a thick protein layer covering them, so they're not really seen by the immune system. And they quite easily evade the immune system, even if the immune system is perfectly well functioning and healthy. So, cancer is not a genetic disease, and it is not an immune system disease. So cancer can develop in the healthiest immune system, and you can have a person with a very highly compromised immune system, and you'll never see cancer.
That's a startling statement to me, because I do think of it as we're looking for some hereditary line that will make a person susceptible to this type of disease. And although I know that if you are perfectly fine, you don't have any history in your family background, but because of pollution and environmental toxins, you can have a weakened system. If you're exposed to radiation, if you're exposed to lead in the environment, if you're exposed to different things, and I also believe that relationships that need repair.
Right.
Also, I mean, there's there's so many different ways that the body can go into this chaotic state of out of control growth.
Yeah. There are numerous risk factors for cancer, but the actual disease exists at a cellular level, and it exists in the subcellular components, which are the mitochondria. It is a mitochondrial disease, and what is seen in all forms of cancer is dysfunctional mitochondria. The mitochondria are little energy factories. They're like little nuclear power plants almost, and they're basically converting glucose into ATP. In the cancer cell, the mitochondria are completely dysfunctional and shut down. The normal process of respiration, the Krebs cycle or TCA cycle, is not functioning. It is shut down. Cancer cells use up a huge amount of sugar, glucose because they're only going through 2 steps in the metabolic chain, and then they produce lots of lactic acid. They're basically fermenting sugar. And they're doing that because the mitochondria are not functioning.
Okay, so this is the controversial aspect of it. You're talking so much about sugar and how the body uses the sugar and insulin, and yet we're providing a diet that is based on fruit, which is a lot of sugar. So that's the question that people are probably wondering right now.
This has been a problem of education.
Okay.
The sugar itself does not really feed the cancer or cause the tumors to grow any quicker. It's insulin. Insulin is the hormone, or the trigger that causes tumor growth. So what we want to do is control insulin. The way we control insulin is by reducing insulin resistance. And you do that by consuming a low-fat diet, very, very low in fat. The higher the fat content of the diet, the higher the insulin resistance, whether that fat comes from animal sources or vegetable sources. So, the diet is very, very low in fat, maybe 5% or less.
Even though you think about the Mediterranean diet and olive oil, which is something, avocado, which is so good for you, and there's so many good oils, but you're saying how much of a diet, how much of these types of fats, vegetable fats, can a person eat safely?
It's less bad fats is what it is. We know that saturated animal fats are not healthy for us. Denatured fats, trans fats, there's lots of bad fats out there. Separated oils are not healthy for us. Even olive oil, I wouldn't really say is a healthy oil. It is just a less bad fat than other fats. Avocado is a good food in reasonable quantities. I don't think people should be eating more than an avocado a day, because more than that increases, the total fat intake to a level that would result in insulin resistance. So I like fats in small quantities. They're necessary for us, but we don't need much. We definitely need some fat in the diet, but its best forms can come in sprouted nuts and sprouted seeds. Coconut.
Yeah, coconut is very, very popular today.
Coconut is very good. A small amount of coconut oil. Of all the oils, I'd say coconut oil is the least bad and the safest. It's the easiest for us to metabolize and actually has some health benefits. So anytime you separate an oil, from a nut or a seed or a bean, whether it's soybean oil or sunflower oil or corn oil, it's a fractionated food. It doesn't have the same properties it had as it did when it was part of a whole food. And oils go rancid very quickly. They oxidize, and they're actually quite difficult to digest. And just think of oil mixing with water. Our bodies are primarily water, and so when you consume an oil, it's got to be emulsified first, and then it's got to be broken down and digested by certain enzymes. So
we're giving our body a challenge to have to deal with mixing oil and water, and to break it down into small enough particles for it to be utilized. So these, like the coconut oil, the body needs oil. The body actually needs oil to lubricate the brain and the other organs. So
it's not really used for lubrication. Fats are important for cell membranes to help build the cell membrane, which is formed, from fats, phospholipids. Don't think of oil is lubrication. We have other things in our bodies that lubricate our joints, other kinds of fluids. We're not like an automobile that way.
Okay.
So
thank you for correcting me.
yeah, there's other kinds of compounds that provide lubricating functions. So no, oil does not lubricate our joints and keep the rust away and keep us from squeaking. There's other things that do that.
Or like you put oil in your car to run, and we don't need that. We have a different kind of oil. We have different kind of need for energy.
Right. So our bodies basically run on glucose. That is our fuel. That's the fuel for our brain. That's the fuel for our muscles. That's the fuel for all of our cells. And our bodies work really hard to keep a steady glucose level. And fruits, in general, most fruits are low on the glycemic index. They don't spike up the blood sugar. Certain fruits are a little bit high, like bananas and dates, but people can eat good quantities of bananas and dates if they keep their fat intake low and they're exercising. People can do quite well on about an 80% fruit diet, and the other 20% can be a mixture of other foods, plant foods, nuts, seeds, avocado, vegetables. But I see fruit as our primary natural source of nutrients and energy and minerals. I think it's our most natural diet. If you look at our evolution, going far back enough, we evolved from primates, living in a tropical climate, eating mostly fruits.
So are we a fruitarian? I know that a lot of people talk about being a fruitarian, like a bird, but, seeds, fruits, I don't know. They make fun of it, but it's actually a good thing.
It's a good thing, and if you really want to slow down the aging process, I'll have to mention this, that there's been a lot of research on caloric restriction.
Right.
As the method, for extending our lifespan. Well, it turns out that it has nothing to do with restricting the calories. It has more to do with restricting methionine, the same amino acid we've been talking about. And there are some recent studies on this, and anybody can go on the internet and look at methionine restriction and anti-aging. And the more you restrict methionine from the diet, the more you will slow the aging process. And it has something to do with the rate of cell turnover and other processes in the cell. Excess methionine is not healthy for us. And where does methionine come from? It comes from animal protein primarily. So, an anti-aging diet, an optimal anti-aging diet would be a low methionine diet. Mm-hmm. So a low methionine diet implies a vegan or vegetarian diet. Although you have to be careful when you say vegetarian, because vegetarians can get an excess of protein and an excess of methionine quite easily if they're consuming soy products and dairy products, eggs. Right. So it depends on what kind of vegetarian you're talking about. When I say vegan, I mean a diet that's free of all animal products, including dairy products and eggs, and even a diet low in soy.
What kind of changes do you see in the people who are on this cycle pattern, and how many cycles does it take for you to actually see improvement or changes?
When people go through this, if they haven't switched to a vegan diet already, they will undergo some symptoms of detoxification and cleansing. So it's important that people do this transition gradually, a little bit at a time. any dietary change should be done gradually. But if I take a vegan who's already not had animal products and has had a pretty clean diet, to go on this fruit diet is fairly easy, and they feel pretty well. There are some food cravings that take place. A lot of what we're eating, is emotional and psychological. So we will tend to eat things that calm us down and kind of lower our vibrational state and numb the emotions a little bit. I think we all suffer from a lot of stresses in our life, and we've all been through a lot of very deep emotional experiences, and food is really, certain foods are like a drug and can bring us to a more comfortable and safer place to be. So it depends on the person. Making a dietary transition to something like this can open somebody up to re-experiencing some emotional experiences or wounds. So it's got to be done gradually, and it's probably good to have some counseling and psychological support.
Like, let's say I'm thinking of a person who has diabetes.
Yeah.
Would this diet be something that they could do safely?
I would highly recommend they did it under medical supervision.
Yes,
But,
yes. If they're taking their regular medication, could they?
Yeah, under proper supervision, and if it's a low-fat diet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that when you reduce the fat intake down to this 5% level, the insulin resistance disappears within almost 24 hours. The insulin resistance is caused by a buildup of fat inside the cells, but the turnover of that fat is very rapid. So even within a day, the insulin resistance will improve tremendously. And then, the person will be able to consume really anything and not, have these blood sugar swings and imbalances. I experienced this myself. I've been a vegan for over 30 years. I went through a period of consuming way too many nuts and avocado and oils, where my fat intake may have been as high as 40-50% on some days. And I was experiencing blood sugar imbalance, insulin resistance, and I've studied this in detail and found a very, very good book, which I will recommend.
Great.
I'll hold it up.
Sure. What does it say?
Here.
Dr.
This
Neil
is Dr.
Barnard's
program, Reversing Diabetes, and I followed this program, and I immediately got better. And it's really all about reducing the fat intake in the diet. So this was published in 2007. I think this is the best book on diabetes.
Okay, that's great. We'll put that also on the website. We'll have all these notes on the website with the archive of the show. And it's interesting what you said, that when you take away the fats and you change the diet, that a person might have cravings. And homeopathically, we have consultations where we want to know what are the foods that the person craves in order to find a similar remedy for them to help their body start to balance, to get into its homeostasis. And so by doing this elimination basically diet and going to fruits, and also Joe Rosenzweig, who is a surgeon, a homeopath, a fantastic physician. He also recommends very, very similar to what you say. No dairy, no meats, fruit and vegetables, balance. And from doing this kind of elimination diet, you're able to more clearly see the person, who they are, and find a correct homeopathic remedy for them.
Right.
So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, this kind of a diet, is very cleansing and detoxifying. It allows an opportunity for the body to rid itself of toxins. It allows the colon to function properly as it should. And, the colon is really the primary site of elimination, for the lymphatic system. And so everything becomes much better balanced and tuned up, and we operate much closer to our normal state, under this kind of a diet.
What about things like turmeric? I love turmeric, the yellow part of curry.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of anti-carcinogenic properties. And
it does. It is.
So are these things that you also encourage in addition to the pure fruit cycle diet and elimination, reduction in the oils? What about those kinds of things?
No, I don't recommend turmeric because it's not compatible with selenium, with the selenium protocol. If somebody were treating another disease, say like arthritis, and they had excess inflammation, turmeric is very, very good for relieving inflammation. But for right now, it is not part of the protocol. It could be, one could, if one were not using selenium and one wanted to do this diet and take about 8 grams of turmeric a day, to use that as a cytotoxic compound, one could do that and would probably get good results. But turmeric is not compatible with selenium therapeutically, so it is restricted from the diet as are other antioxidant supplements.
Okay. And so how long does the person go? This is a lifetime diet? This is something, how does that work?
Well, I think it should become a lifetime diet, especially, if one, is challenged by, life-threatening disease. I think one would want to, really do a lot of personal study and exploration and understand, what type of diet would really support longevity and, the greatest health. And so typically, we see tumor regression happen fairly quickly, within 8 weeks. But I think it has to be an ongoing process, probably for 6 months to a year, to really get the level. I don't know if we can ever kill every single last cancer cell in the body, but at least bring the numbers down to a level where they're not a threat anymore. You have to look at stage 4 cancer as a chronic condition. I don't think that it's something that's 100% curable, but I think it's 100% manageable, with proper nutrition and lifestyle.
Yeah, for people who have been down this road, the journey of finding their health and have tried the traditional forms of treatment and then search out for something that will help them even further because they're not feeling like they're getting better. And I don't know really what the percentages of failure rate for chemo and radiation is, but yeah, do you know?
Yeah, here's the numbers.
Okay, great.
Okay, in the United States,
it is blocked.
there are about 1.6 million new cases of cancer per year. These are the current numbers, and it's going up. The deaths from cancer are about 660,000. So,
And this is the United States.
this is just the United States.
This is not worldwide. Worldwide, we're going to add a lot more numbers.
We're about 12 million
Mm-hmm.
new cancer cases per year.
And with all the billions, should I say trillions? Billions of dollars invested in Walk for the Cure or whatever it else, Run for the Cure, whatever it else it is, and how many decades of research, we're not really much further along.
No, we're not. The war on cancer was begun 41 years ago by Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
And since that time, there's really been very little progress in treating, the major forms of cancer, colon, breast, lung, prostate. And it's just been more and more research into the same chemotherapeutic drugs. It's that same paradigm.
Where they can have a patent pending.
Patented drugs, treating this disease, with very, very highly toxic drugs that have a lot of side effects. And there was a study that was done where they looked overall, at all cancers and outcomes, and they said at best, conventional medicine may be providing maybe about a 2% benefit to patients.
Mm-hmm.
So, what conventional oncology is offering statistically overall is not really improving survival. And some studies actually show that survival is longer in cancer patients that do not undergo any conventional treatment, the ones that stay away from chemotherapy and radiation, and even surgery. Surgery carries a risk of spreading cancer. Even doing a needle biopsy, penetrating the tumor with a needle can release cancer cells into the bloodstream.
You're talking in ways that the conventional medical people are not going to say this. They're not going to say the things that you're saying right now.
No, of course they're not. This is their livelihood. And, oncology is very, very lucrative. The drugs are very expensive. Some of the cancer drugs can cost the patient or the insurance company who was ever paying for it, about $10,000 a month. So in some cases, cancer patients, can be treated up to about $300,000 worth of pharmaceutical drugs and treatments. It's a $200 billion industry, and pharmaceutical companies are making very, very high profits in this industry, and they're not really providing a great deal of benefit, and they certainly don't have options for people with stage 4 disease. When you actually look at, even if you look at the prescribing information for some of the chemotherapy drugs, or even all of them, you'll get their clinical studies. And these drugs have been approved by the FDA because they've provided, on average, maybe 2 months survival.
Right.
Extra survival. Compared
as a vegetable.
Compared, to some other chemotherapeutic drug. We're not using any form of chemotherapy at all. So, these agents provide very, very little benefit.
Mm-hmm.
They're highly toxic, and they destroy quality of life. It's not fun going on chemotherapy.
I can attest to that. So people today are awakening to this information, and they want to learn more, and we have the internet, and that's where they're starting to search out what they can do independently for themselves or bring innovative information to their physician and say, what about this or that? And so how can they get in touch with you? How can they learn more about your protocol, your program? And I will put that up on the website also.
Sure. Anybody can visit my website, and anybody's welcome to send an email for more information or to call at any time. I started the Nutritional Oncology Research Institute as a way to bring together the best of the best in alternative cancer therapy. I've researched all the different various forms of alternative treatment, and I've narrowed it down to what I believe are the best options. And I want to throw out some of the other things that are out there. I think ozone therapy might have some potential. There are doctors using it and seeing good results. I train certain doctors that do use ozone, and they use it along with high-dose selenium, and they're seeing very, very good results. So there are some alternative treatments that are useful, but I think, I formed this institute to teach and educate and to research and determine what is the best of the best in alternative cancer therapy. And I'd say 80% of it is the diet. This is the foundation for producing the best possible outcome and treatment protocol. You've got to do the diet. You've got to do the diet correctly. The diet alone in early stages of cancer can be very, very powerful and has the potential to treat the disease without going any further than that. In more advanced cases, we need something a little more potent. We need to shrink tumors. We need to bring the number of cancer cells down in the body, and to hit certain, if it's spread throughout the body, we need to hit it pretty strongly and hit it in a lot of different places at once. So it's a systemic treatment. Selenium, the form of selenium we use, works very, very well. It's a very, very small molecule. It's a perfect compound. It goes everywhere in the body. It even goes into the brain, so it can treat every form of cancer wherever it is. And then I'm also researching some other avenues, some other metabolic targets. And these look very, very promising. There's a lot of scientific research. So everything that I present and offer is highly, highly supported by scientific evidence.
Very good.
And a combination of evidence, not just a few studies, not just a single clinical study. The research on selenium is very, very, very extensive and very, very solid. And there are many, many scientific papers that suggest using selenium as a form of chemotherapy. And this began 30 years ago.
We're really running out of time, so I want to thank you so much, because this is really innovative treatment for cancer, and you're getting results, bringing it all into the scientific method, collecting data, and I'm enthusiastic to hear what else you're going to have in the future with the program. And I have more questions, so you're going to have to come back, because I want to know. I want to know about sunlight and vitamin D and exercise and meditation and other things that you might even integrate into healing a patient who has cancer, and your new research and how that gets involved. I'm also more interested to learn about the antioxidants that do not work as a compatible treatment during your selenium, and many other things. I'm sure folks out there have lots of questions, so please send them to me, and we'll get back to you with this.
Okay.
Yes, and so check out nutritionaloncology.com.
.net.
.net. I'm sorry.
Oncology.net.
.net. And we will be talking to you. I don't know what we're doing next Monday, but it's always great Tomorrow I will be on the Blog Talk Radio with Alan Phillips about vaccinations. And I forgot, tonight at 6:30, I will be on Blog Talk Radio with Dr. Rebecca Carley, also discussing the vaccines and our rights. So to protect yourself from things that you don't know what could happen.
Yeah, that's another topic very, very close and dear to me.
Okay, well, we'll have to talk about that too, because we've been doing it for a couple of years now on Blog Talk Radio. And thank you to our wonderful producer, Amnon, who smiles and gives hugs. And I want to send out love to everybody, because you know love is the #1 healer in this universe.
Yes, it is.
So
Yes, it is.
repair the earth with your love. Okay.
Right, and every Californian, get out and vote. Vote yes on Prop 37.
Thank you. Please do. When is that due? When must we vote for that?
It's in November. So it's the presidential election.
Okay, perfect timing. So we still have time to tell folks who have not heard about GMO labeling, we need to know what's in our food. Every other country in the world does. Why doesn't the United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave? Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Peace. Peace.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Sundays 9 a.m. to noon. Health In with Debby Bruck, Mondays 11 a.m. to noon. The Scope of Things with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays 7 to 8 p.m. Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays 8 to 9 p.m. Body Talk with Cindy Prince, first Tuesdays 8 to 9 p.m. Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, Wednesdays 8 to 9 p.m. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by thatvidblasterguy.com, carolinaapparel.com, and deltaforce.net.